You need to understand viewer attention. Before we actually move on to writing techniques, what I want you to understand something that is really important. And if you don't understand how attention actually works, you'll always feel like you're guessing. Now, you'll write something down, you'll upload it, and hope people stay. And that's the general mindset. But attention is not random, and that is something that you need to understand. It behaves in patterns. And once you understand those patterns, guys, something changes. Writing actually becomes much more intentional, which is very important for you to know. So let's break this down in a more practical way. First, attention is competing with everything. When someone actually watches your video, they're not just sitting fully focused in a quiet room. They'll have notifications. And more than that, they're going to have thoughts. They're thinking about what works, they're thinking about what to eat later. All of these things are going in their heads, and their phone might even buzz at some second. And your video is actually competing with all of that. And that is what you need to understand. So when I talk about holding attention, I'm not just talking about entertaining someone in isolation. This is something we all need to understand when we start creating content. I'm actually talking about winning small battles every single second with the viewer, the audience, and the subscriber on your channel. And if your video gives the brain a reason to drift, it's gonna drift. And that's just normal human behavior, which we all tend to have. Now, here is something really important, guys. The brain notices change instantly. Think about this. If you're in a quiet room and suddenly the door slams, what happens? Your brain immediately reacts. The question is, why? Because the brain is wired to notice change. And this is something that you need to understand when you start making content. So if your script actually feels the same for too long, the same tone, the same pace, the same emotional level, the brain relaxes. And when the brain relaxes too much, attention weakens. Now, this doesn't actually mean that you need to be dramatic all the time. It actually means that your content needs natural variation, which is very important. Now, AI can't give you that. That emotion needs to come from yourself. And sometimes it needs to come really fast. It needs to be slower at times, and it needs to be intense at times, and it needs to be reflective at times. And you need to understand where these elements tend to come. Now, the variation actually keeps the brain engaged, which is very, very important. Now, let's talk about something which I feel needs to be explained, which is uncertainty. Now, there's something really interesting about how we tend to react to incomplete information. Now, if I tell you that there's one mistake most creators make, your brain wants to know more. What is it? But if I immediately explain everything in a predictable way, that curiosity tends to disappear. The brain actually likes small loops, which is very important for you to understand. Not confusion, not chaos, but loops. Just enough uncertainty to stay interested. If everything tends to feel completely obvious, attention drops, which is what a lot of people make mistakes with when they create content. So when you're writing, you should ask, am I resolving everything too quickly? Sometimes letting an idea unfold naturally tends to keep people mentally involved, which is really important, guys. Another important factor is mental effort, which I feel we let go a lot of time. Attention tends to drop when something feels mentally too heavy. Now, this happens when you tend to introduce too many ideas at once, which a lot of people tend to do, and you speak in complex sentences. You move too quickly between concepts, which you need to stop doing when you write good scripts. Even if the content is good, guys, but it feels like work, people actually get disengaged. Your goal is not just to be clear, it's to make watching feel effortless. And if your viewer feels relaxed while consuming your content, they're gonna stay longer on your videos. So now let's connect this emotional relevance. The brain automatically gives you more attention to things that feel personally relevant. Now, if something feels connected to the viewer's life, attention actually gets increased. If it feels distant or abstract, attention tends to decrease. That means when you're writing, you should constantly think, why should this matter to them? Because when relevance is clear, guys, attention becomes more stable, which is very, very crucial for you to understand. Here's the thing. Most creators actually ignore viewers and they don't watch continuously without thinking. Every so often, if they don't realize it, their brain checks, should I actually keep watching this? And watch a video. And after a while, you're going to ask yourself that question. And if at that moment the video feels flat or predictable, what's going to happen? The audience, the viewer, is going to leave your content. And remember, guys, you don't need to hold the attention perfectly. You just need to survive those internal checkpoints. And that's what strong writing does. Now, stop thinking only about information and start actually thinking about mental state. I need you to ask yourself right now, what is the viewer feeling? Are they curious? Are they confused? Are they slightly ahead of me? Are they mentally tired? And when you write with awareness of their mental state, your scripts change completely because you're no longer writing from your perspective. You're actually writing from inside their minds. And that's where attention is controlled. And understanding viewers' attention is not about tricks. It's something much more than that. It's about understanding how the brain reacts to change, how the brain reacts to uncertainty, efforts, and relevance. And once you see that clearly, writing actually stops being random. And this is one of the cornerstones for a successful video. Now, all of this actually brings us to the end of module 2, guys. And in this module, we have covered the foundations that every serious scriptwriter needs to understand. We explored what actually makes a strong YouTube script and why most scripts fail despite good intentions. How faceless scriptwriting actually requires a different level of structure, precision, and how viewer attention behaves psychologically. Now, all of these concepts are not optionals. They actually form the mental framework, guys, behind everything that you will write from this point forward. And obviously, this course is developed for this reason. Now, I'll attach all the resources and all the assignments for this module. And I really, really want you, and I strongly recommend as well, that you go through them carefully and you actually apply what we've actually discussed in this particular module. Now, as we move on to the execution stage, you're going to be able to understand and actually pinpoint where things tend to go wrong and what you need to improve. And we're going to start writing actual scripts across different YouTube niches. And you're going to see how these principles actually translate into real practical format. This is where everything starts coming together, and I'm going to see you in the next module.